This is a really fascinating story. A history professor named Allan Lichtman has correctly predicted every presidential election since back in 1984, and he has now made his 2020 prediction. So he correctly predicted 2016. The only sort of caveat there is that he predicted Al Gore would win in 2000, but obviously Al Gore got cheated. But that's not the same thing as Hillary Clinton's election, anyways, because Hillary wasn't cheated. It was just, popular vote versus electoral college. Al Gore was actually cheated with the stoppage of the recount. So he predicted that Trump would win back in 2016. So he has his, quote, 13 keys system. And so he did an interview with CNN, and he says the keys predict that Donald Trump will lose the White House this year. It says, Lichtman bases his prediction on a model of, quote, 13 keys that can be answered as either true or false for any given election. The 13 keys in his system include factors such as the economy, incumbency, social unrest, and scandals, as well as the candidate's personal charisma. Quote, the secret is keeping your eye on the big picture of incumbent strength and performance, and don't pay any attention to the polls, the pundits, the day-to-day ups and downs of the campaign, and that's what the keys gauge. That's the picture, Lichtman explained. Says after 2016, Americans have been understandably wary of presidential prediction models. And so it also says, when asked if the key model could account for something as cataclysmic as the COVID-19 pandemic, Lichtman remained confident, quote, look, retrospectively and prospectively, the keys go all the way back to 1860. They're what we call a robust system, so I don't fiddle with them. They've lasted through enormous changes in our politics, in our economy, in our democracy. Don't fiddle with the keys, he explained. He says he still gets nervous with each prediction that he makes, so his predictions are quite serious here. He takes them clearly with some heavy seriousness. What's interesting about his keys system is I guess his keys system sort of look at it as more of like an overarching long-term analysis and prediction. But I do agree with his prediction. I'm also thinking that Trump is going to lose this race. And I've stated it many times, but I believe that Hillary's a different opponent than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is much less disliked than Hillary Clinton was, and so that's a big difference. Also, Donald Trump could just talk out of his diarrhea mouth, but now he actually has to be held accountable because he's actually been in power and has to be held accountable for things. COVID-19 and George Floyd are two main things that come to mind. In fact, I believe that Donald Trump in 2018 would have been much stronger of a candidate against Joe Biden, might have actually been enough to beat Joe. What would really be interesting for me is who would have won if you take 2018 Donald Trump and then put him up against 2020 Joe Biden. That would be really interesting to see how that would, work out. But I think Trump is going to lose. I think he's alienated a lot of Republicans, and I think he's motivated a lot of Democrats who would otherwise be unmotivated to vote, period, for the Democrat or vote at all. And so that's why ultimately I think he's going to lose. So Allan Lichtman, who's gotten it right since 1984 every time, is also predicting that Trump will lose. He predicted Trump would win back in 2016. So I take his opinion pretty heavily.